As well as ushering a change of seasons, the March equinox has also brought with it a so-called supermoon. The event happened just 4 hours after the moment of equinox, the closest since March in the year 2000. And it will be another 11 years, in 2030, before the two events will again be less than a day apart. Well, just think of that. We're now closer to 2030 than what we are to the year 2000. Oh, by the way, this was also the third and final supermoon for 2019. The term supermoon was invented back in 1979 by an astrologer, not an astronomer. For those unfamiliar with the difference between the two, an astronomer is a person who studies space and the cosmos using the scientific method to learn about the universe. An astrologer is a person who uses inaccurate positions for constellations, planets and other celestial bodies at different times in order to tell people about their character or to predict their future. There has never, ever been any scientific evidence supporting any of the claims made by astrology, and its success depends exclusively on the gullibility of people. Now back to the science. On average, the moon orbits about 384,400 kilometers from Earth. But the moon's orbit around the Earth isn't a perfect circle, it's slightly elliptical, meaning one part of the orbit will be a bit closer to the Earth, about 357,000 kilometers, known as perigee, and the other part of the orbit will be a bit further away, around 406,000 kilometers, known as apogee. The difference is about 5% closer or further away on average. The exact distances of perigee and apogee also vary due to other factors, such as whether the lunar orbit's long axis is pointed towards the Sun. Also, the moon's orbital extremes are greatest between November and February, when the Earth's orbit places the planet and its moon closer to the Sun. You see, Earth's orbit itself is also elliptical by about 2%, and therefore the Sun's gravitational influence is greatest during these months. Now, technically, these would be perigean full moons. But trendoids, who use terms like woke, use the description of supermoon to describe any new or full moon within 90 degrees of perigee. Sensing an opportunity, NASA has now adopted this term as a means of educating the public about astronomy.
2019 will be an excellent year to look to the sky and enjoy the spectacular view of Earth's nearest neighbor, the Moon. 50 years ago, we witnessed one of humankind's most remarkable achievements when we first stepped foot on the dusty surface of the Moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
As NASA continues celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Apollo program, the year is opening with a number of opportunities to marvel at Earth's original satellite. 3 supermoons and a total lunar eclipse in the span of 3 months. So, what is it that makes a supermoon super? Start with size. The Moon orbits around the Earth in a slightly oval shape. At its furthest point away from us, known as the apogee, it's about 250,000 miles, or 400,000 kilometers from Earth. When it's closest to us, its perigee, the Moon is about 220,000 miles, or 350,000 kilometers away. When the Moon is full at or near its perigee, it is considered a supermoon, and can appear up to 14% larger and 30% brighter than at apogee. Those distances, however, are changing as the Moon is slowly drifting away from Earth. How slowly? Approximately 2 inches or 5 centimeters annually. A billion years from now, the Moon will take about 31.5 days to orbit the Earth, instead of today's 27.3 days. In the meantime, this year's first supermoon of the year occurred on January 21st and also featured a total lunar eclipse. The second occurred on February 19th, and sky watchers have another chance on March 21st. While supermoons and total lunar eclipses are marvels to behold, a question rises 50 years after humankind's first steps on the Moon. Does it hold any more secrets for NASA scientists? Noah Petro, project scientist for the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, or LRO, at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center says there are many unanswered questions about the Moon. For example, we are still attempting to understand how the Moon evolved to its current state. The Moon has occupied space near Earth for its entire 4.5 billion year history, keeping record of the impacts that have scarred on its surface over time. This record of ancient impacts is largely erased from the Earth due to wind, water, and plate tectonics. Analysis of Apollo samples shows that there was a period of intense impact cratering on the Moon early in the history of the solar system, and therefore on the early Earth as well. Observations from LRO, now in its 9th year of orbiting the Moon, are helping us piece together this history.
People say supermoons look especially big and bright compared to regular full moons. But while it can be around 14% larger and 30% brighter, you really wouldn't notice the difference unless someone told you. And even then, any size difference perceptions you do have will be more likely due to your imagination. In reality, you'd really need proper astronomical equipment to measure the difference. And remember, the full moon always looks large and bright when it's near the horizon, an effect known as moon illusion. The other important point to remember is that supermoons aren't all that uncommon. They usually occur in groups of 3, roughly about every 13 months in 18 days. In other words, roughly every 14th full moon will be a supermoon. Now, one consequence of a supermoon that should be noticeable involves ocean tides. Many factors influence tidal heights at a given location, though they are usually highest, something known as spring tides, during full moons or new moons when the Earth, Sun and Moon are all aligned. So, a perigee moon being a bit closer than average should result in a slightly higher high tide.